We spoke with a neighbor today who I hadn't spoken to yet, who lives right around the corner from Nancy, very, very close, has lived here for a long time, knew Nancy, they used to walk together. And she had a very interesting story, Jesse, because she says she saw a suspicious man walking in the direction of Nancy's house sometime around February 11th.
This afternoon, now more than a month after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, investigators are examining new evidence at her home. They say they may be getting closer to answers in her case.
A very significant date because that is the date that we know FBI agents were asking other neighbors if they had any Ring camera footage from that day.
Authorities now are reviewing a damaged utility box near the house. They say the equipment could be connected to a reported internet outage in the area.
So this is my window that I'm getting ready in the morning, and I saw him out there.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
I couldn't make out his face. He was in kind of street clothes, not shoes that you'd walk in, and he had a baseball hat really low, and he was kind of hunched over, and he was kind of looking around, and he just didn't fit.
He just didn't fit. Now, although Brian Entin has done some great boots on the ground work talking to Nancy's neighbor, Aldine Meister, even going into her home, as you've just seen, this story actually made the news more than 2 weeks ago in the New York Post, and the Post in turn got the original story from Michael Ruiz at Fox News on February 28th. According to Fox News, a neighbor of Nancy Guthrie said she saw a suspicious young man walking in a neighborhood about 2 weeks before 84-year-old mother of Today co-host Savannah Guthrie is believed to have been abducted from her Tucson home. Now, the guy in the Nest doorbell camera footage also appears to be young, doesn't he? I think he looks like he's possibly even younger than 30 years old. According to Fox News, he didn't have your typical walking gear on, and he had his hat pulled really far over his eyes, said Aldine Meister. And she told this to Fox News about 2 weeks ago, and she says that she's lived in the Catalina foothills for nearly 30 years. It's also quite interesting the way Brian Entin asked her, do you normally notice things like this? Is this unusual? And she said this really did stand out to her. According to the same article, the neighborhood is known to be relatively affluent and typically sees little crime. She said that she saw the man walking in the neighborhood near an intersection leading to Guthrie's home and hadn't encountered him before or after.
He wasn't going terribly quickly like a normal person that's getting exercise. He was kind of going slowly, and when he walked by this street, he really took a long look at it.
Now, she doesn't specifically say what time of day it was, but assuming that Aldine was in her bathroom preparing for the day, one would assume it might have been fairly early morning. Now, in this analysis, I want to deal with the merits of the neighbor's observations. Also, the biggest boo-boo in this case so far, what do you think it is? I'll let you know what I think. And then what are the implications for holding back on a cadaver dog search? But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So the neighbor's observations do seem to have merit. Firstly, because she's a long-time local, she not only knows the area, but she knows who belongs to it and who doesn't. That familiarity is really important. And so this creeper clearly didn't seem to belong in the area. She hadn't seen him before. She hasn't seen him since. Secondly, she said the creeper specifically stopped on the road outside Nancy's home, turned and stared at Nancy's home. I believe the neighbor saw this from the window in her bathroom. She actually shows Brian Entin through her home to that window, and one can clearly see she had a relatively unfettered view from her bathroom to the street and looking towards Nancy's home. So it all seems fairly credible, doesn't it? Thirdly, she remembers the date accurately, about January 11th. Why? Because the incident happened shortly after her birthday on January 8th. And January the 11th is a day that the authorities seem to have independently looked at to say, can we see your Ring footage. And apparently this particular neighbor has a Ring camera, but unfortunately wasn't working on that day. As you've heard, she said he was kind of younger and he didn't look like he was going for a walk. She mentioned it to her husband. That also gives it added credibility, but did not report it at the time. After the abduction, she said she told authorities about the suspicious man and that he just didn't fit. Now, it is disappointing that Aldine, the neighbor, said that her camera wasn't working at that particular time. So the question is there other footage from another neighbor that was working and that is of some use? Meanwhile, what would you say has been the biggest boo-boo in this case so far? Well, one former FBI agent said going in the front door was a big boo-boo. Now, I don't think that he went in or out via the front door for that matter, but I do think him approaching that door was a mistake. According to the Mirror, another former FBI agent, Jim Clementi, said that the suspect spent so much time planning it and doing things to hide his identity and keep his DNA from being left at the scene, but I think he failed at that, and I'm hoping that that is how this case is going to be solved pretty quickly. Well, I don't know about that either. I don't know whether they actually have his complete DNA at the scene. Then another former agent, Maureen O'Connell, chimed in suggesting that she thought the suspect looked high in the footage captured by the doorbell camera. The ongoing analysis of the suspect comes as the hunt for Nancy continues and the family have offered a $1 million reward. Now, trying to cover the camera with flowers is perhaps a kind of high thing to do. O'Connell could be right in that this might be drug related, in other words, a financial motive in order to buy drugs, but so far we have no proof of any financial motive. So what is the biggest boo-boo here? Well, let me let you go first. What do you think it is? Do you want to know what I think? I think it's the mat on the porch. Why wasn't that taken into evidence on day one? You know, they may have been able to recover fibers, dirt, even touch DNA from that mat. They could also theoretically have recovered partial footwear impressions either from it or from where the suspect trampled over that blood spatter. That whole porch area, I don't know whether it was sufficiently cordoned off and looked at and analyzed early on. Meanwhile, cadaver dogs that were going to be added to the search for a second time have been put on hold. Some are speculating that this might be good news, that this might be indicative that Nancy is still alive. Well, I'm not so sure. According to the Post, Brantner Smith, who's not involved in the case but has some law enforcement experience, said that departments may hold back canine resources for several reasons. Those could be that the authorities don't have a good idea of where to search, and that's certainly what I'm thinking. Do they even know where to start searching? Or that they think that she might be concealed in a place where dogs would have a hard time detecting her, such as perhaps the canal area where another woman was found that might be dangerous for dogs. Or they believe that she's been taken to Mexico. That's according to Brantner Smith. Now, I don't think that's particularly likely either. She does go on to say, I do believe that the Sheriff's Department has much more information that they are not releasing to the public, and I'm not sure at this point why that would be unless they have a solid suspect and don't want to tip them off. What do you think? Do you think the cops have a solid suspect on day 38? Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.